Hi everyone! So a lot of you guys have been asking me what kind of tools and where I get my tools for tack making. So in today's video I'm going to answer exactly that. I'm going to show you all the tools that I use and also where I get them and some other tips for tack making along the way. So I really hope you guys enjoy this video and that it's helpful and what you're looking for. So let's just get right into the video. One of the most important tools you can have for tack making is a pair of fabric scissors. I use this both for cutting leather and for fabric. A lot of people ask me how I get so thin, even strips of leather, and besides having a steady hand, a good fabric scissor is a very important step to that. And of course, it cuts fabric with very clean edges. As long as you get a decent quality one, brand shouldn't matter that much. But if you do want to get the exact same as mine, I'll put the brand and where I got it on the screen right now. A thing that I really like to have in my toolbox is just some regular old scissors that I really don't care about and really aren't that fancy. These are just for the dirty work like cutting wood, wire, etc. And it's always good to have these on hand so you don't have to ruin your fancy fabric scissors. These suck at cutting anything other than hard materials, so I definitely wouldn't recommend cutting fabric with these. Although this might be a little bit forbidden in the craft community, I tend to prefer cutting wire with scissors and not wire cutters. My wire cutters tend to squish the wire before it cuts it, as opposed to the scissor which makes a clean cut. Number 3 on my list of tools are pliers. I use 4 different types of pliers. The first ones are round nose pliers. These are great for jump rings, buckles, and anything that has round edges. Second is needle nose pliers. These are my standard all-around pliers. They're great for a lot of straight edges. Third is flat nose pliers. I don't use these as much, but they're really good for bigger projects with a lot of sharp angles. Fourth is this multi-tool, but it also does have a plier function. I use this for very thick wire, and it also has a cutting function, which I also use for thicker wire. Overall, I find it very nifty to have in your toolbox. It has so many different tools, so if a glue cap is stuck, you can use it, and it has rasps and knives and pretty much anything you'd need. Next is an X-Acto knife. Now this one has many purposes, from cutting leather and wood and a lot of different things. Now I don't know where I got it because I got it as a gift, but you can pretty much find it under the name X-Acto knife or hobby knife in pretty much any hobby store. Next is a mechanical pencil. Now you might think that I use it just to write or mark stuff down, but no. I actually use it as a hole punch for leather. As you may know, I make tongue buckles on my tack, and for those tongue buckles to work, I need holes in the straps. So I use the tiny kind of shaft to punch out tiny holes, and it works very great. And these are the tools I use for thinning my leather. So the way these work is that they have a very sharp knife on the back here, as you can see, and I firmly drag it on the back side of the leather to thin it. It's a difficult technique and it takes a lot of practice, but it has totally changed the game when it comes to crafting with leather. This one has the same purpose, but I find it a bit more difficult to use. I find the other ones a bit easier to control. I've tried many glue types over the years, but the one that I found worked the best is Patex contact adhesive. Now I could not for the life of me find the correct name in English, so I'm just assuming that that's what it's called, but if it's something else, I'm really sorry about that. I also know there's one for leather, so that one might be better for making tack with leather. It's my favorite glue so far because it's very strong, it dries flexible and transparent. It's also very quick to dry. This cheaper fabric glue is something I use more for blankets and saddle pads and stuff. It's not as strong, but it works for certain materials. If I'm gluing together harder materials like metal, I tend to opt for this super glue. It's very strong and it's the best one I've used so far. Since I've started working with real leather, I've had to buy a lot of care supplies for it. So the first thing I use before I dye my leather is this IKEA Absorb. It basically cleans the leather and makes it ready for the dye. Then when that has dried, I apply the dye. This is dark brown, which I really like the color of. Then when the dye has dried, the leather sometimes becomes a little bit stiff. If that happens, I apply a little bit of this leather conditioner, and the leather will be nice and soft and also smell really good. A little disclaimer, the conditioner and the cleaner is something I kind of found around the house, so it might not be the most ideal. And these are all the wires I use. The first and thickest wire I use, I believe, is 0.5 millimeters, but I'm not 100% sure. I use this one for bits and also buckles that need to be very strong or are bigger. The second wire I use is 0.4 millimeters, and it's the one I use the most. I use it for almost all the buckles I make, and especially for buckles for bridles, as it is quite thin but still strong. The third, last, and thinnest wire I use is 0.3 millimeters. I use this one when I'm making very small tongue buckles like these. On the rare occasion that I do use chains in my crafts, I usually tend to look through old jewelry that I already have and just repurposing that. I find that there's a larger spectrum of different chain types and sizes, and it's also cheaper and recycling, which is great. Some things I recently started using is pieces from Rio Rondo. They sell everything from bits, hackamores, to stirrups, and a lot of other things. They've made my tack look a lot more realistic, and I love that I can now finally make hackamores that actually look great. I tend to only buy the pieces that I cannot make on my own, because I really want my tacks to be as homemade as possible, if you know what I mean. Another thing I recently started using is microbeads. These are so great for brow bands and any small detail like that. There are many places you can get a hold of them. These I bought from eBay and they were cheap but still surprisingly good quality. They're usually sold for nail art, so keep an eye out when you're in a store that sells nail polish. Another great detail for tack making are these little silver studs. They really put the little extra on my tack, and I really enjoy using them. So many people have been asking me what kind of leather I use, and I don't really have a great answer because I get this leather from a friend. I do believe it's either calfskin or cowskin, but more than that I really can't tell you. I did ask a couple of my friends where they got their leather, and I'll put the links to those down below. From my 1-year experience with working with leather, this is what I can tell you. From my experience, the best leather is the leather that is not stretchy at all, but still pretty soft. If it's stretchy, it's going to be very hard to thin, and if it's too firm, it's also going to be hard to thin, and it's also going to break easier. Here is a good example of leather that is too firm and not good for miniature tack making. It's not stretchy at all, which is good, but it's just too dense and firm. It will be very difficult to thin, and if you do manage to thin it, it's going to break very easily. And here's a good example of leather that is too stretchy and flimsy. It's very soft, which is good, but it's very stretchy too, so it will be very, very, very difficult to thin, and it will also probably break easily because it's so very flimsy. So just try to find somewhere in between. It's going to take some trial and error, but believe me, it's going to be worth it when you find that perfect leather. Now for the fabric I use. I tend to exclusively work with non-stretchy cotton fabrics that are very thin and also very soft. And I love to reuse old clothes and stuff. You get a lot of variety that way. and it's great for the environment. For blanket straps, I use 3mm ribbon. They come in a bunch of different colors, so it's really nice, although I usually go for black. And that was it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any more questions that I didn't answer in this video, feel free to comment them down below. I will try my best to answer all of them. Regarding the new YouTube rules with children's content, etc., I ask you to sign the petition down below and write a letter to the FTC. It's really unfair and doesn't really make sense. It's going to wipe out pretty much all of the family-friendly content on YouTube, which is just going to make content more extreme and less child-friendly. I'll leave a couple of videos down in the description that explains the whole situation, so please don't ask me because I don't know everything. So if this doesn't get resolved and my channel gets completely wiped out, I'm not going to guarantee that I'm going to continue YouTube, and I know that's going to upset some of you guys, and it upsets me too, but it's just the reality right now, and at the very least I will have to try to make my videos less children-y, and I can't make realistic roleplays, which breaks my heart because I love making them so much. If you'd like to help save family-friendly content on YouTube, please do sign the petition down below. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope this doesn't get restricted because it's child targeted. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!